I thought we were going to be unlocking our resources, Mark Carney. Where's all the natural resource jobs that you promised everybody?
Not
That's
here.
going in the wrong direction.
Just 1 month ago, Canadians were told the job market was surging after a strong November report. Liberal partisans flooded social media praising Mark Carney's leadership, but Canadians knew better. We warned that these gains were seasonal, driven by the Christmas rush, and unfortunately, December's data now confirms it. Unemployment is rising, youth jobs are falling, and the underlying trend is becoming clearer.
Let's take a look. Ladies and gentlemen, you may have seen these articles back in early December, and you may have seen social media posts that reflected the same thing, talking about 54,000 jobs being added to the economy. Isn't this amazing? It's an awesome trend for the Liberals. And you saw these headlines saying that Canada's unemployment rate fell to 6.5%. Holy moly, what's going on, folks? Well, now we have the new data. So this is a headline by Global News. Unemployment climbed to 6.8% in December, says StatsCan.
Canada's unemployment rate jumped to 6.8% in December 2025 as the trade war and U.S. tariffs continued to impact the job market. Statistics Canada on Friday reported the labor force survey for December, which showed a net 8,200 jobs were added in the month. December's unemployment rate was up 0.3% from November's reading of 6.5% and marks the last snapshot of Canada's labor market for 2025. Youth aged 15 to 24 saw 27,000 jobs lost, while 33,000 jobs were added for those aged 55 and older. A report from Deloitte Canada released Wednesday forecasts 2026 to see businesses pulling back on hiring plans for the first 6 months as tariffs are expected to slow down demand for Canadian goods and services.
So unfortunately, Canada's youth get another punch in the gut. And the biggest concern about this report, folks, isn't the report itself. It's the fact that we haven't even gotten through a lot of the, let's just call it the ending of these Christmas contracts, because usually what happens is those new jobs that were added for the seasonal work in Christmas, they go through late October, November, December, and then the return period, which is usually in, the first couple of weeks of January, and then we see it. So it's going to be interesting to see what the February and March job numbers are for the previous months. And I thought it was also interesting the fact that you saw this one demographic. They are going back to work, the 55 to 64-year-olds. They're not exiting the workforce and retiring because they can't afford to. And this is the disturbing trend. So you now have youth losing their jobs, and you have people approaching the senior demographic trying to find work. That's not how this is supposed to work.
No, that's not a sign of a healthy economy.
No. But let's continue, and we'll show you the deep dive into the StatsCan data. So this was the unemployment rate as per StatsCan in November, and you can see it was at 6.5%. So all the Liberals were crowing about that, and now we see it jumping to 6.8% in December of 2025. So you can see that the overall trend for unemployment has been growing since 2022. Not great. This is the employment rate graph, and what you'll see here is between November and December, the rate doesn't change at all, and that is called out in both the global article as well as in the StatsCan data and the report. So some of you might be wondering, wait a minute, if the employment rate didn't change, how can the unemployment rate change? Well, there's a good reason for that.
So the employment rate is the number of Canadians who are employed. The unemployment rate is the number of Canadians who are not employed but are looking for a job. So the unemployment rate would exclude people who maybe are on disability, or maybe they're retired, or maybe people like me who, before Northern Perspective, I was a stay-at-home mom, so I wasn't looking for work. Now, the reason that the employment rate is staying the same and the unemployment rate is increasing, that means either people are coming out of retirement and looking for jobs and not being able to find them, or maybe you did have a one income household and the other spouse is now having to go to work and they're not able to find employment, or we have more people coming into the country who are also not able to find employment.
So this is how the employment rate can actually stay the same, where the unemployment rate goes up. So basically you have a set amount of people, and that percentage kind of holds with the employment rate, but more and more and more people are looking for work, hence the unemployment rate. So this breaks down the demographics in the StatsCan data according to age groups. So in the first graph you see this is 15 years and older, and then you have 15 to 24 years old, 25 to 54, and 55 to 64. So what's interesting to me and concerning is if you look at 15 years and older and then the youth 15 to 24, the second graph shows a lower employment rate than the first ones. So that hasn't historically been the case, as you can see. And you also see that the 55 to 64-year-olds, a lot more of them are working than they were 3 to 4 years ago. When you look at these data points, you look at the climate, you look at the economy, it's pretty clear what's going on. People that would normally be retiring are not. People that are trying to retire early cannot. They're having to go back to work. And the problem is the people that are going back to work are now taking jobs from the youth. That's the challenge that's coming in.
Well, in addition to our immigration
and temporary foreign worker program and all of this that has been called out. So you have all of these factors squeezing the youth out of these jobs. And what did we hear from Patty Heidi? Wow, we're going to start a summer jobs program for the youth. Isn't that great? Way to go, Patty. 27,000 youth just lost jobs in December. Where's your summer jobs program now? Because they want to know. You know, we talk to youth fairly regularly, and there was one gentleman that we spoke to, and he's in his 20s, very capable guy, very ambitious, and not afraid to work, loves working. And he's almost given up. He said, I'm never going to get a house. I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to have kids. How am I going to get married, have kids if I can't even move out of my parents' basement? And this is the challenge that youth are having. Is it a wonder that the youth are now saying, you know what, maybe these conservatives actually know what's going on with the economy, because the liberals have completely abandoned them? Let's continue. So this is where employment gains and losses actually happened. So interestingly, most of the gains were in healthcare and social assistance, other services, whatever that is, construction, education, public administration, manufacturing, agriculture. Now, remember when Mark Carney said, oh, well, you know, our tech sector is going to boom. It's booming. Well, look at the highest number of job losses. Professional, scientific, and technical services lost the most amount of jobs. That's staggering. Accommodation and food services is down. Restaurants are closing across the country, which is not a great sign. And you have finance, insurance, real estate, rental, leasing, wholesale, retail, trade, utilities, etc. So, and natural resources going down. Not exactly the numbers you want to see when you see what happened in Venezuela. Not at all. I thought we were going to be unlocking our resources, Mark Carney. Where's all the natural resource jobs that you promised everybody?
Not
That's
here.
going in the wrong direction. Anyhow, if you're interested in seeing the unemployment rate per province, we have that data too. So as you can see, the highest unemployment rates you can see is in Nunavut at 15.4%, over in Newfoundland Labrador at 10.7%, and from a very problematic perspective, in Ontario, where one of the largest population bases is, at 7.9%.
And it's gone up 0.6% than last time, which was higher than the average of 0.3.
So this is a problem. This is a problem. And unfortunately, we said this was going to happen. And I think we're going to see... I think the numbers for January are going to be pretty ugly, because all of those retail part-time jobs are going to come to an end because they don't need them anymore. And then what are the Liberals going to say? What is the mainstream media going to say? You know, we had strong growth a couple months going. Oh, yeah, that Christmas rush, let's not talk about that.
Well, the interesting thing is they always take credit for when there is a surge in employment, but I will be very surprised if they take credit for the job losses.
No, they'll blame Trump and the tariffs
of course.
in some way. But the issue is, and this is where Canadians are starting to wake up, and those that don't, I hope they come around. They need to start realizing that your government's job is to provide a strong economy, safety, and security to its people. That's what its job is. And you can't just say, well, all of these things, we couldn't control them, so don't blame us for that. But all the good stuff, yeah, that was absolutely our job and our success story. But if a government cannot control anything when things go badly, that's a government you don't want in power. If they're saying that, no, all these external factors, we can do nothing about it. Sorry, Canada, but it's not our fault. At some point, Canadians need to start to realize this actually is your fault, because you're not planning for the long term. You're reacting. You're reacting to symptoms, and you're causing problems that you're then trying to fix, but you're even not fixing the root cause of those problems. Canadians know the root cause of the problems in Canada, and it's the Liberal government.